Hello, today we're going to talk about dealing with abandoned property. It's very common for landlords to have to deal with abandoned property when they evict their tenants or when their tenants just leave things. So let's talk about the two causes that create abandoned property. Eviction, when you evict someone and they leave a place full of stuff, you have to deal with the abandoned property. Or anytime they move out and they leave part of their stuff or they just disappear, sometimes there is abandoned property. So to deal with abandoned property, state law says that you must store it securely. So don't put it in the front yard or in the back yard or something like that. It's got to be stored secure. It could be in the premises or it could be in a separate storage facility for 15 days. Now, there is also a provision that you have to give an additional 15 days for victims of domestic violence, for people who are hospitalized for serious illnesses, and for the estates of deceased tenants. So if your tenant died, hope that never happens, but occasionally it does. If their family's dealing with it, needs some extra time, they can simply ask, and you must give them 15 extra days. You don't have to unless they request it. After the 15 or the 30 days, if there's an extension, you may discard the abandoned property, you may auction the abandoned property, or you may give it to charity. If you're going to auction it, any proceeds that you receive needs to be applied to their damages. Okay, so if they owed you $2,000 and you get $5,000 when you auction their stuff, you owe them $3,000. You don't get to keep that money. If you can't find them, send it to the State Office of Unclaimed Property. Okay? Now, things that you don't have to store include hazardous materials, vehicles, or pets. Pets just call animal control or the Humane Society. Vehicles call a towing company. Hazardous materials, you can take them to the places that take hazardous materials like batteries or oil or things like that. You don't have to store that for a period of time. Okay, one last thing we want to talk about is there is a provision that a tenant who has left stuff can get it back within 5 days, the first 5 of the initial 15, if it is medical equipment prescription. So somebody left their wheelchair in there and wants it back. Of course, you're going to give it back to them and you're not going to charge them. Documents, their visa, their passport, their proof that they're on housing, their proof that they're on WIC or something like that. And then clothing. You may wonder why that is. We sometimes cut deals with the housing advocates when we make these nice laws, and we got a lot out of this. The law used to require 30 days. Now it requires 15. And so one of the concessions we made to the housing advocates is that people, especially with children who get evicted or who get displaced from an apartment, oftentimes don't have clothes to go to school or whatever, and so we allow them back in the apartment to get their clothes. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to say about abandoned property is that you must deal with it in an appropriate fashion or there are penalties, including treble damages. A quick story, a landlord had an apartment full of abandoned property that they did not deal with appropriately. And so the tenant got to write a list of all of the items that were in that apartment. The list amounted to $23,000. So this apartment complex wrote a check to the tenant for $23,000, and the tenant's attorney said, but wait a minute. It's not $23,000. In landlord-tenant law, there is treble damages. That amount had to be tripled. It cost almost $75,000 because they didn't deal with the abandoned property appropriately. So hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, contact the Apartment Association. Have a nice day.